Hello everyone, and welcome to a look at some upcoming nerfs and buffs. I was definitely as surprised as everyone else today when Blizzard announced that they would be going back into some of the older sets and doing some buffs, which is not something that happens pretty much ever. I can't remember the last time that a card was buffed outside of something like a Molten Giant or something like that. So that's really exciting, especially 2 days after we just had a big announcement for a bunch of nerfs, particularly rogue nerfs. So I thought what I'd do is I'd go through a bunch of the nerfs for those of you who maybe haven't seen anything, haven't seen any news, or don't pay too much attention to that stuff. And then we can go through the buffs as well, kind of absorb everything all at once. So we'll go through the nerfs first. This is the Blizzard article. You can find that at the Play Hearthstone website. So they kind of just say here that they've been looking at Rogue, essentially, that it's been an extremely successful deck. Also looking at a lot of the Warrior decks, considering that the Warrior decks were having one of the better win rates against the Rogue, kind of creating this weird kind of polarity thing. But they also do acknowledge here that there are other powerful archetypes and things like that. But they decided not to address them this update because they all have varied matchups, which is an interesting statement. I think that what we often see from a lot of these Blizzard nerfs is that they almost seem to be like a little step behind things, or they seem to miss things pretty often. And sometimes it'll take until the next announcement of nerfs for them to deal with what's actually a problem right now. Sometimes that happens. Although I do have to agree with this statement, actually, because I've actually got some... this is from HS Replays, excuse the cropping. But this is just looking at the Tempo Rogue archetype and looking at all the matchups and, just quickly, you can see positive win rates, positive win rates, positive win rates. Anything over 50% is a positive win rate, even these Zoom matchups and things like that. But what you will see here, right next to my head, these are Warrior win rates. Whoa. Ugh. They don't look too good. They don't look too good. So, but yeah, considering that you can have a positive win rate against pretty much the rest of the field, that makes it one of the best decks to play. Anyway, let's get to some actual nerfs. So, the first one here, Evil Miscreant. So, going from a 3 mana 1/5 to a 3 mana 1/4. I think this is pretty interesting. One of the things we talked about when we were doing our initial set review was that Evil Miscreant works great with the Evolve Lackey because it is a pretty high toughness minion. It's unlikely to get traded into that early in the game, and then you can maybe get an attack off, set up your own trade, then evolve it into a 4 mana minion, give it some bigger stats. It's also great with the Charge Lackey. You can not the Charge Lackey, the Rush Lackey. You can kind of get a bit of tempo advantage there. And they mentioned Evil Miscreant is meant to be a value-generating card that creates future swing turns, but having 5 health on this minion means rogue players sacrifice very little to set up those turns. We expect Evil Miscreant will continue to be a great option for rogue decks, just a power level that is more in line with other available cards. I think that's right. I don't think that making a 3 mana 1/4 makes this card terrible. It just reduces the power level slightly. I think this is kind of... whenever I think of good nerfs, I think of the Knife Juggler nerf that, they made Knife Juggler from a 2 mana 3/2 into a 2 mana 2/2, and it didn't really stop it from seeing play. It became significantly less ubiquitous, but, we've all been playing with Knife Jugglers ever since. So I think this is a very Knife Juggler level nerf. Up next, Raiding Party. It's kind of been a very... not oppressive, but I think Raiding Party, especially combined with Preparation, gave a lot of these tempo decks and the pirate decks quite a lot of consistency. The fact that you could, almost always be ripping out Waggle Pick as long as you're comboing, but that you can get Dread Corsairs, you can get the legendary Pirate Man who gives you +1/+1, Captain Greenskin. And all of these things are like really synergize well together. And like I said, as long as you draw a raiding party, it almost sets up the same kind of sequence of turns that we've seen all the time, where your opponent gets the waggle pick out, they get a big board out, then all of a sudden they start buffing the pick, they start going face, and then the Leroy kills you. So they say Rogue already excels at drawing cards. Does it? Does it? I mean, prep sprint, sure. Rogue already excels at drawing cards, so having another powerful option that offers consistent results has resulted in Rogue games that play out a little too similarly. That's exactly what I was saying. And that we think is fun. A little too similarly than we think is fun. We're making this change to better represent the power level of drawing from a very specific subset of cards. It's pretty interesting. I mean, do I think the card is still good? I think it would still be fantastic if this card didn't get nerfed. But I think that this is definitely going to be a wait and see. I still think that Hook Tusk is a pretty high power level. I still really like the interaction between Dread Corsair and Waggle Pick, or other weapons. So we'll see on this one. I still have confidence. The next one, the big one, Preparation. No, it goes from a 0 cost spell, next spell you cast cost 3 less to costing 2 less, which is a big difference. I kind of thought that Preparation would have been nerfed actually quite a long time ago, especially once we started seeing nerfs to Innovate and those types of cards. I think Blizzard, it seemed like Blizzard were making a concerted effort to get rid of any of like the quick mana kind of cards. Or at least making that significantly harder to set up. So, long time coming, but how good is Preparation when it makes your next spell cost 2 less? On one hand, there's definitely been a bunch of decks where I've thought about adding Preparation, but there hasn't been a critical mass of 3 mana spells. So I think that maybe this kind of nerf might actually make people consider doing it for cheaper spells, you know, the Eviscerates and things like that of the world. So we'll have to see. Let's see what they have to say. We got 2 dot points here. All changes we make to the base and classic sets are aimed at ensuring Hearthstone's long-term health. Well, we've already talked about the classic set and my thoughts on it many times. Preparation is currently seen as such a powerful card that it appears in nearly all rogue deck archetypes. That said, the change we've landed on is a small one. While we don't want the card's power to decrease, we also think that it's important for Preparation to remain a reasonable option since it fits the rogue class fantasy so well. I hadn't thought about the fantasy. Does it really? Is the idea of reducing the cost of the next spell? I guess it is a combo enabler. Interesting thoughts. Preparation is regularly used to reduce the cost of cards like Sap or Eviscerate, and those interactions will remain unchanged, yeah. Reducing the cost of your next spell by 2 as opposed to 3 opens up our design options a little more to create high cost rogue spells without having to balance so closely around the assumption that they'll be cast alongside Preparation. That's true. I mean, we haven't seen too many really expensive rogue spells that you would deploy in the early game. You know, obviously Prep Sprint is fantastic, but you know, it's been a while since, like, you know, the Sharp Sword Oil, Tinkerer's Sharp Sword Oil, which was like a, you know, 4 mana spell that you'd want to deploy quite early in the game, and deploying it early would probably give you a significantly higher win rate. And it's been a while since we've seen those kind of spells. We've seen more proactive minions, things like a lot of the stealth minions, things like Shaku, things like Faldora, Strider, these types of things. So hopefully that's true. Hopefully they do open up the design space a bit more. And last nerf, Archivist Lysiana, going from 8 mana to 9 mana. Honestly, we haven't been playing too much Bomb Warrior, so I don't think this is an interaction that we are fairly familiar with. But they do mention here that by making it 9 mana, it means you can't play her alongside Baleful Banker and Youthful Brewmaster, which I assume is what a lot of these control mirrors were kind of coming down to. But yeah, I won't talk about too much about this one because honestly, I don't feel like I'm experienced enough in the matchup or in that deck to really know what this is all about, how it affects things. So anyway, those are the nerfs. Overall, obviously, big hit to Rogue, big old sledgehammer to Rogue. But I think that's fine. Like I said, looking at these stats, you can definitely see a reason why they would go for the nerf. Ooh, anyway, we'll look at the buffs and a brand new card. This is Snip Snap. Everyone gets this lovely lad for logging in between June 3rd and July 1st. So lots of time. Everyone's going to be getting this boy. Is a 3-mana 2/3 with Magnetic and Echo, and has Death Rattle, summon 2/1/1 Microbots. Already got a lot of people kind of doomsaying that, in Wild, Mech Hunter is already such a fantastic deck. It's already a deck that can get out a bunch of Mech Warpers. And with Mech Warper, obviously this guy becomes quite fantastic. Echo and Magnetic, you can turn all your Mech Warpers into monstrous beasts and slay your opponent. So already a lot of people talking about it like that. As far as standard goes, that could be interesting. I think the mechs on the whole are a bit kind of simplistic. Lots of aggro decks, not a lot of other options unless you're like a warrior or something like that. You have access to Dr. Boom and the 1-mana Discover a Mech. Those things, yeah. You have access to that, so you can play a bit more controlling. But yeah, that's I think this might open things up a little bit. You can get to a little bit of a higher mana cost. Get to 9 mana and play a bunch of these. But yeah, free legendaries as well. Get happy about that. All right, and also just a quick note here, of course, that it's part of the Boomsday project. So you can't open him in packs, but he is considered part of that set. So he does rotate out with Boomsday. Interesting that they have chosen to kind of go back on something that they got rid of a while ago, which was the craft only cards. So you had like there were like the reward only cards. I think there were a couple that you could only craft, or like if you didn't get them as part of the reward, then you could only craft them. Like isn't Gelbin Mechatalk like that? Like you can't open him from Classic, you could only craft him, or you got him as a golden if you spent money on the game. Anyway, they got rid of a lot of those cards. They moved them all to Wild, and kind of Hall of Famed them all. So it's interesting that they're kind of going back to gift cards in a way. Anyway, so all of these are buffs. So, and I really want to read through this. I haven't had a chance to. So, card changes. All right, this first part is just a bit fluff. Second part, for this update, we decided to take 2 cards from the Boomsday project from each class and give them a slight power boost. We think all cards we chose can lead to fun and interesting experiences, and our aim for these changes is to encourage you to think differently about how you're currently building decks. We're hoping that some of these cards will see consistent play in the current rotation and even inspire completely new decks without having a lasting negative impact on their respective classes. The goal of a balance update is to address metagame outliers. Then the goal of a balance update is to address metagame outliers, then the goal of something like the Rise of the Mech update, that's what this is called, is to inspire some fun, new ideas, and we look forward to hearing your feedback. And I think I really like this approach. It's something that we've talked a little bit about before, something that I think Blizzard could do more of, and that is buffing cards, particularly ones that aren't seeing a lot of play. We see a lot of other games do this, where they'll look at, particularly online card games, where they'll look at usage statistics. I think Gwent did this quite well, and they just say, well, all of these cards aren't being played, so we'll give them +1 power. We'll reduce the cost by 1. We'll do something like that. Just these little tiny things where, eventually, if, in another 6 months' time, it's still not seeing play, and they do it again, and another 6 months' time, still not seeing play, do it again. Eventually, this thing is just going to be so well costed and so powerful that you just have to play it. Then you can see where the power level is and kind of adjust it from there. So I really like this. Let's go through them. We've got Gloop Sprayer. It's 7 mana down from 8. And Gloop Sprayer was kind of an interesting kind of combo card. You can get a bit of value out of it. And 7 mana is a bit more reasonable to kind of deploy before that kind of comes down maybe before your board gets cleared in some matchups, which could be good. Mulch Muncher down to 9 mana from 10. This is a pretty interesting one. I don't know how much of a change 1 mana is for something like Mulch Muncher. I think the hardest part about the Treant deck is simply getting the Treants on board, that you've only got a couple of really good options in the 3 mana spell, Landscaping, Force of Nature, the Soul of the Forest, everything else that makes Treants. I'm sure I've missed one, but a lot of the things that make Treants are pretty inefficient. You've got like the one that adds 3 Treants to your hand, but you have to take a turn off to do so. Poison Seeds is obviously very hit or miss. Guess they never miss, huh? Depending on the matchup. So I don't know how much of a difference this will make, especially considering that like Forest Aid is already such an amazing finisher. A lot of people aren't using Mulch Muncher because you can just kill your opponent with other cards. But I hope it sees play. I like this boy. Hunter, Necro Mechanic down to 4 mana. 4 mana from 5. So essentially, we have a proper non-legendary Baron Rivendane. Just missing 1 point of health, but 2 points more powerful. I think that was what a lot of people were saying. It's like, it's a Baron Rivendane, but 5 mana, weak body, not too great. But at this kind of cost, maybe we'll see maybe some Bomb Hunter. I think that could be interesting, like a nice thick body, water elemental sized body. We all know how tough water elemental is to deal with, especially in that early game. But now all of a sudden your bombs are going off twice, your Mecharoos are going off twice, and God forbid it sticks around for a turn and you get to chuck a replicating menace or something like that onto something, attack in, trade, 6 things jump out. Like it could be interesting. I'm really looking forward to people testing out this card. Maybe we'll have to test it out as well. Flux Boomzuka from 8 mana down to 7. I'm really surprised we haven't seen more Boomzuka combo decks. Obviously can't think of one off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's some Mechathuni stuff you can be doing. I'm sure there's stuff you can just do with death rattles and things like that. I'm sure Toast will come up with something. Leave that to Toast. But as long as these types of combo decks don't become oppressive, then I'm all for it. Mage. Now these, let me tell you about buffs, friends. These are the 2 buffs to look out for, in my opinion, which means I'm definitely wrong. But unexpected results from 4 mana down to 3. So what I will say about this is, I think originally when Call to Arms was released, so 5 mana, recruit 3 2-cost minions. Or was it 4 mana? It was 4 mana to start with, and that's just like you're getting 6 mana worth of stuff for 4 mana. Like it's straight up that's the math for you, friends. And I think that unexpected results could be the same thing. Like 3 mana, you're getting 4 mana worth of dudes. Especially with cards like Blood Mage Thalnos still out there. We've still got Spell Zerker around. We've still got a lot of the really good spell damage synergies. Cosmic Anomaly, of course. This could get out of hand. Making it cheaper makes it easier to deploy alongside those things. So even if you do get to 5 mana, you can go Thalnos Unexpected Results, and for your 5 mana investment, you're getting a 2 mana minion and 2 3 mana minions. So you're getting 8 mana out of your 5 mana, which is pretty big. It's a pretty big deal, and making it cost 3 also potentially makes it fit in with the current hotness in Mage, which is that like tempo giants kind of thing, which could certainly be splashing some spell damage, and unexpected results could maybe go in there. I'm interested to see what it does, but I think this is possibly the most impactful buff. The other one here one of the stream favorites is Luna's Pocket Galaxy. We haven't been playing too much Pocket Galaxy this expansion, but we've played some in the past. Always a casual deck favorite. We're going from 7 mana to 5. Obviously, this means that you can deploy it a lot easier, a lot quicker, a lot earlier. The real problem, I think, with the Pocket Galaxy was drawing the Pocket Galaxy. Mage didn't really have too many tools to make sure that they can always get it, which was always the downfall of the deck. You know, if Mage had Storm Chaser, it would be fantastic, but they do not. So yeah, I mean, I hope something happens with this, and I hope it's not too busted. But yeah, looking forward to Mage having some different archetypes. Onto Paladin, Christology, from 2 mana to 1 mana. I think this is a good change. I think this could encourage some people to experiment with some things, making this so cost efficient. Lets you pair it with Wild Pyromancer as well. You can start ripping your Acolyte of Pains out of your deck a bit easier. I haven't played too much with Christology lately. We used to use it to get things like Righteous Protector, and also the 7 mana 1/1 that cast all your buffs onto itself. There's some interesting things with that you could do. Obviously gets Crystal Smith Kangor. Yeah, so yeah, we haven't really looked at Christology in this expansion, but now with this buff, it will make us look at it, and I think that there could be some interesting stuff going on, especially in a lot of these. They're probably already running it already, but in a lot of those Shivala decks, you know, you can start ripping through your deck a lot quicker. The Glowstone Technician from 6 mana down to 5. A lot of these hand buff cards are kind of just maybe a bit too slow at the moment, but maybe with all these Tempo Rogue nerfs, they'll the game might slow down a little bit. I'm just reminded of when we were playing that Dragon Paladin deck, and it was just, you know, it had like Glowstone Technicians and Arena Fanatics and stuff like that in it, and it was just so slow. And the body on the Glowstone Technician and the Arena Fanatic and stuff it's just not good enough. Sometimes you do just have to play a Chillwind Yeti or something like that to stay on board. All right, Priest. This is another one of the buffs that I think is really strong. Extra Arms from 3 mana down to 2. And a lot of people might say, like, look, I mean, Priest, it's, you know, what's it doing with these buff cards anyway? It's supposed to be a controlling archetype or a mid-range archetype or a combo archetype. But one of our favorite decks was, one of our favorite Priest decks the last kind of 3 to 6 months is Murloc Priest. And Murloc Priest was the deck that was playing Extra Arms. And I think Extra Arms for 2 mana is significantly better than 3 mana. You can really just jam these out quickly, get more value, get more power out of it more quickly, do things more. But you can deploy both of these a lot quicker, which is exactly what Murloc Priest is all about. It's all about taking advantage of that early game, getting under your opponent, and Extra Arms will allow you to, at 2 mana, will allow you to apply a lot more pressure a lot more quickly. Cloning Device, from 2 mana down to 1 mana. Honestly, I don't really understand this card. I don't know if this is a good change or anything like that. This seems like a super niche, like, Control Priest card where you take your opponent's win condition out of their deck and play it against them or something. I don't know. Pogo Hopper, from 2 mana down to 1 mana. I saw a lot of people complaining about this. They think that maybe they've got some kind of like they've had a bad experience with Pogo Hopper in the past, and they think this is the worst thing ever, the second coming of Quest Rogue. But I think the hardest thing about Pogo Hopper was not deploying the Pogo Hoppers. It's drawing the Pogo Hoppers and making sure that you always have more to play. And I think right now it's just a bit difficult to do that. So I think that this is a nerf that isn't going to make too much of a difference. I mean, I hope Pogo Hopper does see play and it doesn't become oppressive. But I think it's going to be more about giving that deck the support in order to make it, you know, let it draw more Pogo Hoppers, let it copy more Pogo Hoppers, let it not have to rely on charging up like a big scheme to shuffle 10 pogo hoppers into the deck just so it can win a longer game. I think that's the main problem with that archetype. Violet Haze, from 3 mana down to 2 mana. This is interesting. I mean, the problem with Violet Haze is that obviously Death Rattle minions can range from Leper Gnome to Cairn to Hakar. So whenever you play this, you have no idea what you're going to get. And unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot of rogue archetypes that just care about having a mass of things. Just like, I'm going to just vomit minions at you until you run out of gas. I don't think that exists, and I don't know if Violet Haze enables that. But, yeah, we'll see. Shaman, Stormbringer from 7 mana down to 6. I think this is pretty interesting change. Pretty cool change. I like Stormbringer. I like putting it in decks. I like drawing it with Stormchaser. I like turning my board into a bunch of fun guys. Making it cheaper is always better, especially because a lot of the time Stormbringer is in those decks that are trying to be aggressive, get on board, have a big board, hit you with a Bloodlust or something like that, or a Stormbringer, and then either you're dead that turn or you're going to die soon after. So making this a bit cheaper, making it a bit easier to deploy, I'm all for it. I love it. Then Thunderhead, a card that I thought was still pretty powerful, and maybe like the Burn Shaman and the Overload Shamans that we'd seen in the last expansion, maybe they'd run out of steam, but I mean, a lot of the cards in those decks didn't rotate. We've still got Lightning Bolt, Lava Burst, Voltaic Spark, the 1 mana summon 2 1/1s. Still got a lot of the cards from that archetype, and Thunderhead, of course. And Thunderhead was one of the best cards in that deck as well. And now it's a 4 mana 3/6 instead of a 4 mana 3/5. Already a good body. I mean, I thought the effect with that body was great. Now it's even bigger. Yeah, I'm all for it. I want to play some Thunderhead. I want to play some Overload cards. I want a Voltaic Spark. I want to trade my board in. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I want to play some Flame Tongue Totems. Oh, all this Dalaran heist has just made me want to play some Flame Tongue Totems. All right, Warlock Spirit Bomb down to 1 mana from 2. I actually hadn't kind of factored in this one. I think I just saw Spirit Bomb, and like a lot of people, when they see Spirit Bomb, their eyes just glaze over. But there's a big difference between 2 mana and 1 mana, especially in an aggressive deck. Maybe this is enough to make the Nether Soul Buster see play. Just like a nice easy way to damage yourself, but also get on board. Yeah, I think this will make Spirit Bomb see play for sure. I think that it'll take a little bit. I think there's still the right balance of making sure that you have enough dudes in the deck, that your curve is nice. But I really wouldn't be surprised to see a Spirit Bomb or 2 pop up alongside Soulfire as some early removal, even though Soulfire is more of a reach card. But it would definitely make Zoo Warlock a bit more potent, I would say. And maybe, who knows, maybe all these buffs to, making a bunch of these 3/6s is going to be helpful against that. We've got another legendary change, Dr. Morrigan, from 8 to 6 mana. Dr. Morrigan really was just not seeing any play. And I think ever since people discovered the bug where she only swaps a certain number of times, people in a chain, she only swaps a certain number of times. But I mean, for 8 mana to 6 mana 5/5, not unreasonable. Death Rattle swap with minion in a deck. I mean, look, we've already seen that Mountain Giant's the most popular card in Standard, so or one of the best cards in Standard rather. So who knows? Maybe if there's a hand lock or something out there where you really are trying to play as few small minions as possible. Maybe Dr. Morrigan is the way to go. Helps you go a bit deeper into fatigue, maybe. Yeah, who knows? I'd like to have it see play. Security Rover. Ooh, Security Rover. I have a lot of deep feels about this card. I think Security Rover is one of the best cards to get with Dr. Boom, the hero. Giving this thing Rush and giving all the dudes that it pops out Rush is an absolute beating. So making it a 2/6 is actually, I I think that's actually a big change. Letting it survive a little bit more potentially lets it get more triggers off. Yeah, I don't know if this is enough to make it see main deck play in a lot of those warrior decks, but I think it'll be a very strong choice off of a lot of those discover effects. Beryllium Nullifier going from a 3/8 to a 4/8. Once again, maybe this is enough to make someone chuck a single Beryllium Nullifier or something in their deck, but I think a lot of these changes, just because Warrior has access to so much random mech or discover a mech and things like that, I think those are the main applications, because you're very likely to see Warrior mechs off of your discover a mech card in a Warrior list, if that makes sense. But I don't think it's enough to make it see too much main board play. I think cost reduction would have definitely, like, if this was a 6 mana 3/8 with hexproof, that would definitely make it see a lot more play. But yeah, that's it. That's it. There's some changes to Arena, so we might jump in and check that out. But those are the nerfs. Those are the buffs. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Obviously, there's a lot of changes, so try and absorb them a fair bit. If you think that there's any sweet decks that are going to rise up now that Rogue has kind of taken a bit of a hit and some of these classes are getting some buffs, let me know what you think it is. Do you think it's going to be, Murloc Priest? Do you think it's going to be some kind of spell power mage? Is there a sweet Flux Boomzooka deck that we totally missed that was unplayable before, but now it's 7 mana? It's going to be the bee's knees. Yeah, let me know. Until next time, though, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking me out. New videos everywhere. If you haven't subbed, please sub. So please stay wavy. Bye. I hope you enjoyed that video. Check out other ones over here, or come subscribe to the Wave Pool for more excellent times.
Yeah.